because, bro, we 15 days out from an election?
15 days, yes, sir.
Bro, that's crazy, man.
Started 9 months ago.
9 months ago. So it's like a little baby you've been carrying in. You're going to give
I
birth,
never thought about it that way. I'm ready for birth.
Yeah, you're having contractions right now?
Yes. Dilated or whatever. I'm having contractions.
Yeah, so in the studio, we got Mr. Jason Bergeron, or Bergeron, whatever y'all want to call him up north or whatever. But he's running for parish president right now. A good buddy of mine went to high school, and he made the runoff. And,
yes, sir.
So I'm really proud of Terrebonne Parish because they looks like they're looking for some change right now, kind of stir it up right now. And I wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of tell me the highs, the lows, and what's been going on, man. It must be kind of biting your nails last minute. And
well, this whole campaign's been, I've been telling people I'm working hard, putting in the Lord's hands, working hard, putting in the Lord's hands. And when people say, they were shocked, they were surprised to come out with 33% of the vote at 7 candidates, I was like, I put it in the Lord's hands, and if I work hard and put it in His hands, that's the result usually happens. And so, really just humbled and thankful for people seeing that I'm doing it for the right reasons, and that they know, every decision I'm going to make is to be what's best for Terrebonne, not who I like or don't like, or, it's going to be, how does this decision affect our residents, and making decisions based on that.
Right. Well, I mean, working with you over the last couple of years, we built the gazebo,
bandstand.
The bandstand. No, I mean, a lot of the stuff and construction that's going on downtown has been from the people of Terrebonne Parish. It hasn't been from parish government. I mean, they probably had a little hand in it. I don't know all the ins and outs, the permits and stuff like that, and the voting and all of that stuff. But I do know that a lot of the revitalization of downtown Houma has been from the people. They want to see change happen, and I just think the politics of old, I'm trying to say this in a nice way, is just you need to take that jar and just shake it up a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to say drain the swamp or anything like that, right. But I just think we got some new, fresh leadership. We got some really innovative people and really talented people in Houma. And I just think if we pull all of that together and get rid of the old way of doing politics and kind of shine a new light on it, I think we can at least offer something for everybody. You know what I'm saying?
Well, when you look at the projects that have been built, we're not a community that waits on the government, right? So so to say government, did or didn't do something, we always have been the community that says we don't need government. We're going to get something done. When we looked at building the bandstand back in 2020, pre-COVID, it was how do we get this done? Let's get some projects, let's get some events going on. And I got to give it to Noah when he talked about, hey, let's do a boucherie, and that means community. And from doing something that means community, we could build a project to benefit the community. And when I tell people about, I've been tagged as a downtown guy, and it's like, well, that's where it started, right? And you look at the history of Houma, and you look at, that plus oil and gas and fisheries have built us over the last 100 years. But we needed that center, that kind of that flag in the sand that said, this is the center of the community, and this is where we're going to start projects. And from there, our next project looking to build the paddle trail, 65-mile loop, the only loop in the state to bring ecotourism, economic development to the entire parish. Well, that's when you look at, just because where you start, I mean, that's where you finish. And that's kind of what we're looking at this campaign. It's like, we started 9 months ago, had a call in to do it, talked to my wife and said, this is what I feel. I feel like our parish needs the skill sets that I've built and the experiences that I've built over the last 25 years to move it forward. And that's kind of what developed into the slogan. And she was like, and with my daughter leaving and saying, she's a senior at LSU, she's going to Texas, nothing to come home for. It all kind of accumulated together. Then we get hit by Ida, and I just see the people just struggle. And that was the thing that really solidified, that said, our people need help, our people need a voice, our people need opportunities. Let's get it done.
What's now, I mean, one of the things that I do with my production company, people always like, man, I like your little mini political series you're doing, because it kind of gives different perspectives. You get to find out what the guy does for, or what the woman does for a living, outside of, jumping into the political realm. One thing that I've noticed this year is just new faces coming in. I've never seen that before. And it's because of what's hitting Terrebonne Parish all at the same time. Now, a couple of years ago, it was COVID. 2 years ago, it was the hurricane. I think over the last year, I think it opened, even though those two things were bad, kind of was a little blessing in disguise, because it kind of, that wind blew over some of the scars that we had in Terrebonne Parish, kind of opened up the eyes of, I guess, some of the younger leadership saying, oh no, we can't do this anymore. What's the number one thing you hearing from the people on the streets right now? I mean, I know I have my top three, but what's your number one thing that you hear? As far as issues, what's the number one thing that's like people Terrebonne Parish is awesome, but you know what I'm saying? What's that number one thing?
It's been interesting because, and it's evolved a little bit.
Right.
As we've gone over the last 9 months.
I mean, like I said, I got my top three, but there's one burning issue that you hear or one burning issue that I hear. We'll compare it.
Well, I tell you, the biggest thing's been those roads and bridges and grass, and as that's evolved and as everything's come out with the flood maps, it's evolved to a lot of conversations. So it's probably 75% of the conversation before the flood maps. Now it's probably about 50% of the conversation.
Right.
And
so insurance,
flood insurance,
yeah.
Quality of life, just things, and I think what happens, and I go back to COVID, I think COVID made people realize life is short. And I don't want to necessarily work for this person that might be a bad boss, or a company that's not taking care of me like they should. What's my passion? And so when you look at Ida even make you realize, yeah, like things could change overnight. And people going, you know what? Like, it's kind of, I keep hearing, well, why can't we have this? And they have that. And, it's like, you cross over from Terrebonne Parish to Lafourche, you look at the difference between just the grass, right?
Right.
Just right there. And so that's been the main areas. And then it's everything. And to me, it's everything that makes up affecting quality of life. Drugs, crime, people just struggling financially, like all that stuff that if we can fix, will end up being a better quality of life.
Right. It's great. It's crazy because you hear people in Thibodaux. When I go to Thibodaux, I'm like, man, I wish our little downtown looked like that with the restaurants, the 2-story stuff like that. And then people come from Thibodaux, they come downtown Houma. Man, I wish our downtown looked like this. So what I'm trying to say, you ain't gonna please everybody. Oh, no. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's like, well, I want this, I want that. You gotta bite that elephant one bite at a time. You know what I'm talking about? And it started with, I think right after COVID, well, right before COVID actually, because Hash Grant and all of that stuff, that all started right before. And
we were the first event post-COVID.
Post-COVID, yeah. Because I think it was supposed to be before, right, but it was everything canceled and we shut everything down. But it started with just, man, we need to do something about downtown because it was like gloom and loom. Like you just look down there and it's like you had people's drugs, which is, they're always great.
Right.
Why can't everybody look? And I'm not putting anybody else down the street because they do have some good businesses that keep their stuff up. But just 80% of downtown looked like death.
Right.
It really did. And I think just we had that full head of steam and then COVID. And then we had, all right, let's get this, boom, and then the hurricane. And it's like, okay, I think where everybody's got their stuff kind of back in order a little bit. I know people still have fighting insurance companies and stuff like that. But I think everybody's got their life back together. Now, boom, we're going to start bringing tourism. We're going to start doing this. You're in a flood zone now.
Yeah,
oh, man. It's like, boom.
It's crazy. And I look
crippling everybody.
Part of the reason of running is that I just feel like a lot of times government becomes a hindrance, because while we were trying to build the bandstand, while we were trying to do kayak launches, we're trying to give something to Parish, and we just kept meeting resistance. And I know you're talking about people getting their lives together. One thing I keep trying to tell people and make sure they understand is that we have 1,000 families, ish, that aren't in their homes today.
Yeah.
We have 1,000. Think about it this way.
Crazy.
1,000 families would love to have a flood insurance problem. They don't even have that.
Right.
And so, it's
I
important.
never looked at it that way. I mean, here I am bitching about a flood insurance policy when people are like, man, I wish I could pay because that means I'm in a house. You know?
And
it's
so,
just crazy. I never looked at it that way.
To tell our story, for people to know across the country that 2 years after Ida, we're still struggling. You look at the mental health and the toll that puts on people, and then people drive down the road and they hit a bump, and they go, man, like, it's like it's
I got to
straw
change my tires now.
It's the straw that breaks the camel's back.
Right.
And I said this early on in the first forum when we had, I think it was 7 of the 9 or not, whatever people there, and I go, to me, this many people feeling like they have to enforce change, not knowing anybody, nobody knew each other at the time.
Right.
Going, that shows you people need change, because this many people feel like they have to get the top spot and do it.
Right. What that blew my mind, because I think the last election we had, I think Dove was against McCormick, I think, and that was the only 2, I think. Yeah. And then now typically people don't run against the incumbent, and typically that's not how it works. But man, when you turned out, and it was great to see all these faces. I'm talking black, white, woman, all these people, and it was refreshing to see that. Now we're down to the nitty gritty. Now, of course, I open up my podcast to anybody that, anybody want to sit down and talk about it. So, of course, I threw it out there. You took the offer. Your opponent took the offer. A couple other people took the offers and everything. Like I said, I'm going to leave it open to anybody else that I want. But this is your chance, because it allows you to not just have 3 minutes to defend a mudsling, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, I can't stand the regular forum way, because it's like you spend half the time defending yourself, where I don't want to hear none of that. I want to hear what you're going to bring to the parish. You know what I'm saying? I want to hear and it's, so I'm going to give you an opportunity, and also I'll give the opponent an opportunity to dismiss any rumor, anything they're talking about, anything you want. If you don't want to talk about it, you don't have to. Just tell me something about Jason that people like, oh man, like, I'm not going to vote for him because of this. Tell them, no, vote for me because of that. You see what I'm asking?
Yeah, and rumors got brought up in one of the debates we were in, and there's a lot of things being said, and in some situations, and I even did some videos about, I'm firing everybody. Everybody's got to resign and reapply for their jobs, and just all kind of stuff. And to me, if you just put a little bit of common sense to that, and you go, well, it would be stupid to fire everybody, right? Mm-hmm. Like that don't make sense. If I was buying a company, you go in, you see what works, see what doesn't work, and you make decisions from there. But my biggest thing's been, if you haven't heard it from my mouth, and in some situations when I say stuff, and it's funny, my campaign guy says you talk too much. I said, well, it's because I want to be transparent. Mm-hmm. I want to give as much information as possible, and I want to get, and I've said many, many times, I want to get people in the room to have conversations to fix issues. And by trying to be transparent and things start getting twisted, I've been here my entire life, ever since I had the opportunity to give back, because I wouldn't be where I am without it. I grew up in a trailer no less than a mile from right here, right?
Right.
I would not be here without people that have done that for me, and I just feel like it's important for me to do that for other people. But I've been about giving information so people can make informed decisions, right? And sometimes you got to do the 70% rule, which means you're going to have to make a decision with 70% information or less, because by the time you get to 100, it's too late. Mm-hmm. But I tell people, look, if you hear something, somebody says I'm for this or against that, pick up the phone and call. Mm-hmm. I've built a reputation over the last 20 years that pretty much with me, you see what you get, right? What you see is what you get. And I've worked hard, and I've given my everything to our community, and not just focusing on my business. It's been about, how can I build a technology ecosystem? How can I make it to where our people have opportunities, by not just doing maybe machinists or welding and things that have built us up, but man, the opportunities to say, what does our next 10 years look like? And so I say, if you hear it, if you say, oh man, I've had this big thing with recreation consolidation. I got a video from 2018 of me speaking to the council and saying, we need a system-wide master plan. The council says, you mean consolidation? And I go, no, I'm saying a system-wide master plan. Those are two different things. Mm-hmm. But people still believe I want to consolidate rec. I want every citizen, no matter where they live or how old they are, to have recreation opportunities. Mm-hmm. We have 2 of our 9 areas, 3 of our 9 areas. I'm sorry, because I want to make sure I'm clear. Right. 3 of our 11 areas, because we have 9 districts, 11 rec districts, 9 council, 11 rec. And so we have 3 that have senior lunches or senior activities. We need to have all the other 8 should have the same opportunity.
Right.
And so I just want to make sure, again, our residents, our employees, our reg districts, every entity, every person in the parish is set up for success and has opportunity. And because we're such a strong community that doesn't rely on government, to have a hand up, not a hand out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm about. I put my heart into this. I had a calling to run. It's about what's best for the parish. This isn't about me.
Right.
This is about our parish. This is about our residents. And as I look through and hear conversations about experience, the questions I'm starting to ask are, do you have as much money in your check account as you did? Does your check go as far as it did? And when you drive around the parish and you see what we're dealing with, what is your experience?
Mm-hmm.
That's what, when you look at, I know what my experience has been, and that's why I'm running.
Right.
And I think people are ready for change, and I hope they go vote for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when 9 months ago, when you put did you realize it would get like, and then, I know you knew that it was going to be that way, but in a small town like this where everybody kind of knows everybody, did you think it would go like, yeah.
And it's funny. So we say 9 months, I really started having this conversation in the beginning of 21.
Right.
Before Ida, right?
Right.
And the first conversation was with my wife that said, look, this is what I feel like I need to do. I can feel it in my heart. This is where I'm being pulled, godly calling. And I told her, I said, but what's important to me, like, I'm sure people will come after us. I'm sure, my wife's concerned, are they going to hope they don't bring the kids into it? All that kind of stuff.
It gets ugly, man. That's one of the reasons why I thought about it too, at a minimal position and then work your way up or whatever, just to kind of figure it out. But it's like, man, I don't know if I wanted that drama because I know it comes with the territory when you do it. But I feel like if you're doing it for the right reasons, you can put those blinders on, you know what I'm saying? And you can feel like, okay, well, God feels like, you feel like God's telling you to do this. Okay, well, God got your back with all that that hate that's going on or whatever.
My wife sent me something that when you wonder why God sends you through troubled waters, is because your enemies can't swim.
Gotcha.
And she sent me that, within the last couple weeks. And so we knew this is South Louisiana. You got your politics. And I feel like people are tired of that. I think people are ready for, that's why I've really run a campaign on my merits. This is what I've done. This is what I want to do. And I've run my businesses like that. Like, I never believed in talking about competition. I believe that if I don't do my job, somebody else will. Mm-hmm. And we got to make sure we go every day and work hard to make sure our customers and our employees and everybody's taken care of. And if you focus on that, the work shall come.
Right. Were you, when you first got in, did you have any, like, you campaign manager or anything, did you have any polls that you looked at and you're like, I need to make up, need to do this? Because to be honest with you, when everybody put their name in, I was like, okay, I want this person to win, but I think this person's going to win. And when the voting happened, I was like, huh? I was totally thrown for a loop because I was like, wow. And I'm kind of, like I said at the beginning, I'm proud of Terrebonne Parish. It's like, man, that's what I want to see. I want to see somebody like just shake it up a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And look at it from a different perspective, not a, and then I was watching the debate the other night, and, it was the difference. We got to run it like a business. You can't run it like a business, all of this stuff. And I was like, you know what? You got to run it the way the people wants to run their business. You know what I'm talking about? Right. That's the people's business.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about?
People are stakeholders.
Right. Right. So it's like, okay, well, if we can't run it as a business, what we're going to be stuck like this forever. You know what I'm talking about? We need to get in there. We need to, we need to do this, that, the other, blah, 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 blah. What is one thing that you're going to do? Like, for instance, right now, one thing that's perturbing me and really bothering me in the parish right now is the damn Bird Bridge right there. Okay. Yeah. Now, that's a state project, right?
Right. That's a state project.
Okay. And I always hear this from parish government. Oh, that's a state issue. That's a state issue. How are you as parish president, if you get in there, are going to work with the state to fix, okay, state, come get your stuff done. You know what I'm saying? Like, because it seems like that's just the excuse and the Band-Aid. Oh, that's the state's problem. Okay. No, it's our problem because the state's road runs through our parish. You know what I'm saying? So I don't understand all of that. Do you? How would you be the rah-rah to get that done?
It's funny, we had a conversation last night about the tunnel and how you can't see in it.
Right.
It's graffiti and all. And I was
every day I pass by there, they got graffiti on the damn thing. I'm like, bruh, come on.
So I hear that and I go, you know what? Let's throw up some light power plants. And I hear this, you can't. When I'm like, well, like who's going to stop me? And I'm not saying that I want to combat the state. Right. I'm saying that parish resident safety is important to me, right? And if we can't see in the tunnel and it's causing a safety issue, let's throw some lights up. And whoever comes down to take those lights saying we can't do that while they're there, maybe they could change the lights. Yeah, right?
Or they could. I'll be like, all right, well, we can't do that. Tell us what we can do, or you fix it, you know?
And so, look, I've gotten tired of it's the state, it's this, it's that. And I find you got to ask questions differently, right? And when I had some conversations with DOTD about the Berg Bridge, my concern was traffic. I was like, can we do something about traffic? And you know, I know if our sheriff's office, they got to pay overtime, probably don't have the funds for it. And learning the process that says DOTD says it's got to be a 55-mile-an-hour road or an interstate for law enforcement to be paid for by the contractor. And then they're having trouble getting law enforcement in the required jobs. That's not even a required job, right? So it's not even, it wasn't even in the bid, right? And so I go, well, how do we make that happen? So it's like, okay, what is that short term versus the long term? And what I did is I kept sending pictures of traffic to people, and they said they could come back and reevaluate it. But that's when I look at, I know we've had a clear difference in, like, I want to take over Martin Luther King, right? And I feel like that I can do that with efficiencies that I'm going to find in government. Right. When I get involved in organizations, most of the time I rewrite the bylaws. We go through the budget. We figure out, are we spending money like we should, efficiently, effectively? And so I want to take over Martin Luther King. It is the most dangerous road in Terrebonne Parish. The state has a program to take over roads. Now, will I try and not be successful? I'd rather try and not be successful than not try at all, because the goal for me is that road gets a median and the speed limit gets lowered. But I was in a meeting last week. They did a study, and they're saying based on the study, the speed limit should be raised. And I go, yeah, same look. That's same look that people give me, and I'm going, we have to take over that road, right?
No.
I'm not saying they're gonna do that,
right?
But they've been doing study after study. Start to sound like levies after a little while, right? Study after study, study after study. At a certain point, when you look at areas that are causing people to possibly get in accidents or break their vehicles, sometimes I feel like we just got to go do it. And that's what I find the difference is when you go from Terrebonne to Lafourche. That's a state road, but Lafourche said, we're going to cut it anyway. They got a medium in the middle. Manicured, you got flowers. And so at a certain point, you got to go, we got to find a way. We got to figure out a way. And then part of it's going to the residents that says, hey, in some situations with nonprofits or residents, we could do this, but maybe we need a little help. And there's nothing wrong with saying that. But to me, it is. Let's try something differently. If you do that, you can take liability. If you do that, you're going to get sued. If I do that and save one life, it's worth it.
Right.
Just one. And that's what, and you go from there. So that's just kind of how I do things.
Well, they said the same thing in Lafayette. They, I think it's Pinhook or one of those, dude. It's just like Martin Luther King. It's like so, and they were like, it can't be done. We can't make that median. So I think what they did was, instead of making that middle lane just a constant turning lane the whole time, they made medians in it, and then kind of just gave like long turning lanes. There is bro. Yeah. I don't wish anybody to make a left turn on freaking Martin Luther King. I feel like Clark Griswold cannot make left. You just go right and then turn up the road. It's so no. I
it's
agree
amazing
with you
how
on
many
that.
stories I hear. Like my son just started driving. We told him back roads. If you have to get on Martin Luther King, you make a right and you get off as soon as you can.
If you have to,
and I've had 20, 30 people go, that's the same thing we tell our kids.
Yeah, just go right and then.
And look,
make you turn up
even
there.
by trying to get it done, maybe it gives the visibility, the voice that
this is unsafe. Realize, we need to do something.
Look, you don't do it, we'll do it.
Right.
But until that point, I'm going to push for it to get
done. But look,
done.
20 years ago we had Walmart. That was it. That was on there. Right? We didn't have all. We had a couple of restaurants and all, but now, you have business after business after business. So they got to slow down right there.
Right.
You know, and people, I don't know what it is. I mean, I'm sure everybody knows somebody that got in a wreck on Martin Luther King. My wife, one of them, you know. They use that damn middle lane as an optional third lane. Just
It's like pit road.
Yeah.
It's like you enter in, you got to get up to speed and enter pit
Yeah,
road.
no, that's the turn. You know, turn like 500 feet. You turn. You know,
Right.
like. But I mean, hey, it's we all been there, done that. Martin Luther King.
And then I look, you know, again, it's that trying things differently. It's I'm always been the kind of guy that you want something done, tell me I can't do it,
Right.
or tell me we've always done it this way, or tell me that you can't do government that way,
Right.
because I think there's opportunities. It's like, why not try? Let's throw things on a wall. Let's see what sticks, and through conversations, things happen.
Right.
Right. And look, there's always that short term, long term. Like, what can we do now versus what's going to happen later? And I'm always been like a multi-pronged approach. If I have two issues, can I do one thing to fix both of those issues? Right. Or again, like, you have an idea, like, hey, let's try that. Like, I don't have to be the guy with the ideas. I'm not going to know it all. I'm going to get the right people in the room. I want to get the right, you know, I'm only good as my team. And so getting the right directors and the people. And look, we have a lot of hardworking, passionate, dedicated people that work in our parish every day. And sometimes they get a bad rap. And to me, it's about setting them up with success, setting them up for success so that we can then hold people accountable.
Right. I think right now the parish is, I think the people are just looking at it. And I mean, I'm not speaking for the whole parish. This is just my perspective on the whole thing. The government has been grumpy old men. Like just that's how it's been. And I just think with the technology we got right now, with the fresh talent, with some of the newer ideas. I mean, when I went to Bayou Artsfest this past weekend,
That was amazing, man.
dude, just the talented people in Terrebonne Parish. I'm not talking about Louisiana in general.
Right.
Just in Terrebonne Parish. I mean, Hans Geist, that dude was painting like right there, live painting, bro. I mean, I went to high school with him, through school with him. The dude's just multi-talented.
The big gator mural.
At South Terrebonne, yeah. And I mean, all the murals in downtown Houma, he's had a part in all of that stuff. And it's amazing to see the people want to go downtown. The people want to go out and explore, but you got to give them a reason to go out and explore. I know our past administrations have been like, you know, heavy on getting that levy, you know, which we needed. Yes, right. I'm not. I mean, but now it's like I haven't paid flood insurance for 15 years, and we never had levies. We got levies now. I got to pay flood insurance. It's like it's bass backwards, if you ask me. So that's the one thing I wanted to ask. That was on top of my totem pole list. A lot of people say, well, as Terrebonne Parish president, you can't really do anything about the insurance rates. Is that true? I mean, you can. I know you can't flip a switch and the rates go down. There's no red switch underneath your desk that's going to do that. But you can have conversations with upper higher salons to get that rolling. But I know that's probably top of their line too. It's not just Terrebonne Parish. It's the whole state that's drowning right now. No pun intended. Right. But in these insurance rates, it's bad.
So it's interesting because, you know, I go back to that transparency, right? I want to make sure people have all the information. And so right now we have a hole, right? I've heard 4 to 5 miles, and it's Montmont Ridge to Miners Canal. And I know the levee district's working on getting that hole closed, right? And so, you know, to me, it is a balance thing. We got to work on that, but we got to work on other things at the same time. If you have, you know, in life, in business, if you focus on the front yard, the backyard gets tall, right?
Well, that's what they used to say in the oil field. Like let's focus on, you know, quality. But then you neglect safety. Somebody gets hurt, you know, so then safety. So it's always that balance to get a good product out. And it's the same with government, you know, budgets and balances and stuff like that.
So what's interesting in the conversations, you know, I've heard, you know, we got to meet FEMA, right? And I've heard, you know, 17 foot, 22 foot, 24 foot, 1,000
you hear all
right?
kind, yeah.
Well, through conversations and working to understand, and so that I could turn around and give that information to our residents. In some areas, FEMA might be 10 foot, right? It depends on as the levee goes and works through. So I feel like when you have a conversation about this, certain areas that FEMA says we got to meet 10 foot, seems attainable versus 24 foot, right? Now, look, You got to build to a certain height. It's got to settle. So if you want a 22, you got to, if a 24 or 22 or 20, sorry. If you want a 20, you got to build to a 22. It's got to settle. Right?
Yeah.
So, having people understand that's how some of that works. But when you look at insurance, we're a very litigious state, a lot of lawsuits. When you hear about whether it's car insurance, or house insurance, whatever it is, companies don't feel comfortable working in this area. And so the insurance commissioner, this is the same person that decides how much insurance the school district carries, right? So the past insurance commissioner said $10 million for Terrebonne Parish schools. We had $200 million in damage, right? Yeah. So the conversation I had with our insurance commissioner-elect, Tim Temple, we did Committee 100 for the last few years. I go, let me ask you a question. It seems like, insurance is always about risk. Why couldn't we take all the school district amounts they pay now, pull that in one area, and get more insurance for the same amount of money? He's like, that's a great idea. And so our insurance commissioner coming in, trying to make it
like
more
a group
friendly.
Insurance rate for all the schools or something like that, kind of like that.
Yeah, and look, they're talking about all the pooling. There's so many.
Yeah, because somebody like Lake Charles that got hit. We all pay this insurance. Can we all pay in the same pool to where they can pool the needs that they need? Right. For, you know what I'm saying? It could be affordable for all, but they're all paying into the same tank. You know what I'm saying? Well, I don't know.
And then you look at it, you got
that's on a higher pay grade.
You got two different tanks, though, right? You got homeowners and you got flood.
Right.
So when you look at homeowners, the insurance commissioner has the opportunity, working with the legislature, to make it more friendly and make it to where, again, the more people come in, lower rates come down. You have that. You have no storm, right? The further we get from a storm. And the third thing is the LOMR, LOMR, which is the letter of map removal. And that's trying to recognize the floodgates, the levees, the pump stations. That process is 16 to 18 months. And you want to have as much information in to get started. And so, once you get to a certain point, you say, well, I think this is going to make a difference. You got to submit it. Now, what's cool about it, what's interesting about LOMR is that you as a resident can submit your own. So if for whatever reason the mass doesn't get approved, residents can individually now submit their property saying,
I'm at this elevation,
right, elevation certificates,
this
and you have
risk,
an opportunity.
Whatever.
So that fortified homes, right? There are a few things that can happen, but I look at doing things differently. And when I look at fortified homes, I'm like, imagine if the insurance companies would have said, okay, I got to replace the roof. And that's $2,000, $5,000, $20,000, right? But for another $1,000, for another $2,500, we could put ice and water barrier, and the insurance company invests then, and that roof's good for 30 years. Mm-hmm. Where, there's that return on investment conversation you have with an insurance company. Then you look at flood maps and FEMA, right? The fact to me that we call it flood insurance is antiquated. And you say, okay, I always like to say, okay, let's take Louisiana out of play. California, before the hurricane, which I never thought I'd say, right? But before the hurricane, they had a bunch of rain, and 80% of the homes that flooded didn't have flood insurance. Why? Why do you think they didn't have flood insurance?
Because they never flood.
They never flood. So people, that's the mindset with flood insurance. But if you change that to like a disaster insurance, that's flood, fire, wind,
covers it
hail,
all,
tornado, hurricane, locust, right? You look
anything,
right? And you go, well, people go, well, yeah, there's a possibility of me being part of a disaster. I'm getting that insurance. More people buy in, the rates come down. Mm. And that's where I get into the doing things differently, like looking at things differently, asking different questions. What about this? I feel like a 4-year-old. Why?
Huh? When? Huh? Yeah. Why you do that? And I feel like when you put people in office that ask those questions, they get ridiculed all the time. Yeah. Like, shut up. Like, just go with the flow.
I've been ridiculed for ideas I had, and I go, it's an idea.
Right.
They're not all going to be good.
Well,
but
that's one thing, and you probably learn it more than anybody putting your name on that ballot, is like you said, when you just go with the flow, nobody notices you at all. You just na. You're on the like on Finding Nemo, you're the turtles. But as soon as you step out of your comfort zone and say, you know what, you raise your hand. I got an idea. You remember in class you'd raise your hand and you just always had that butterfly feeling in you because everybody's looking at you. He's raising his hand, and then you say something. You may have said it right. You may have said it incorrect, but you had that feeling that you just actually did something and nobody else did. Everybody turns their head at you. Why? Because you made the room uncomfortable by doing something. Right. So I guess that's what I'm trying to say is like, anytime you stand up and say, I have an idea to make it better, or I have this, and everything's going with the flow, people are kind of
or a question. Like, I got a question.
Yeah.
Like, why are you doing it that way?
Right.
You know?
But people they're just so resistant to change, even if it's good change. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just, you go with the flow, you go with the mannerisms, you go with everything. And I've learned that as a social media influencer. If I say something, that, it was meant to be a joke or meant to be this, you're going to get backlash no matter what. I guess what I'm trying to say is if you're trying to do something, trying to be a leader, you're always going to get flack, So why not just take the chance and try to make it, because at the end you're gonna be like, oh man, you really weren't that bad of a guy. You really wasn't. That was a great idea, or whatever. So,
or you're still a great guy and that was a bad idea.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Oh, and you know what? I have tons of bad ideas. Tons. I probably have 100 bad ideas before I have one good idea. You know what I'm saying? And you have to do that. It's like sales. You got to 100 calls to one yes and 100 no's to one yes. That yes might make your whole life. You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
you learn a lot from the no's.
Success is built through failure.
Exactly.
Right. Like look how many times Michael Jordan. That's the story. He missed 10,000 shots, or he didn't make the high school basketball team. Right. But it's interesting, and this is something I always try to bring things to its most basic nature, and in an effort to educate my children and get them knowledge to be successful in the world. I've always talked about how you can't make everybody happy. And through that, the reference I give is Jesus brought people back from the dead and they killed him. You can't, he's a miracle. Rise. And they were like, die.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. You can't please anybody. They nailed him to the cross for what he did. Literally nailed him to the cross. And it's crazy. That's what I'm saying. Any type of good you try to do, you're going to get met with resistance. Right. So you just got to put your head down, keep moving forward. If you know in your heart you're doing what's right for you, your family, and the parish, you keep God first. Boom.
It's funny you say resistance, because when I took over his chair to chamber, my uncle's a pastor, and he came down and I had him speak, and give words of wisdom. And in that conversation, he talked about how persistence beats resistance. And so through everything, that's what I look at. Persistence beats resistance. People want you to quit. People want you to stop. People want to keep the status quo, and I go, we deserve better. We deserve more. We deserve different. We deserve opportunities. And yeah, I got big shoulders. I'll take it, and I'll keep pushing. And, as a parish, as a community, we've been knocked down on our knees so many times. They fight us on oil and gas. They fight us on fisheries. Then while we're fighting those two, they go, oh, got high insurance on top of it. And we get knocked down to that knee. And we get back up, and we get knocked down to that knee. And that's what I really love about our community. We're relentless to a fault, and we just say, and look, we band together. It's like my, I can make fun of my sister, but you better not.
Yeah,
exactly. And when you look at the bayous, we have a lot of great competition between the different bayous and the different teams and high schools. But man, you mess with all of us. Like you do something against all of us. We're like, ho.
Yeah.
Come on, let's go take care of that, right? Like that's what we really come together, man, for a cause.
You saw that you saw the picture of downtown Houma for Wetlands, the stage with all the people in it. I was like, God, I never seen that many people in Houma since before, like probably in 5 years.
I'll give you a time I saw that many people. At the Rougarou Fest.
At the Rougarou Fest, yes.
Like that right there. They had two groups. Like you had the rides, and then you had the stage and the food.
Right.
And I was like, there's just as many people in this other area as there is in this area.
It's
and that's
true.
just amazing.
It's true.
How we just come up with reasons to have a good time, raise money for a good cause, and come together.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I know you got some campaign stuff you got to go do in a few minutes. Where are you going? You gonna have a luncheon or something? Or
I've got a luncheon, a meeting, a walkthrough. It really been his amazing. I can't thank everybody enough.
Right.
That that they see I'm doing this for the right reasons, and I get so many calls for support. And people just going like, keep doing what you're doing. Just keep doing what you're doing. And to me, that's working hard, put it in the Lord's hands, and just get out and trying to meet as many residents as possible. And of course, you get that, he didn't come see me and he didn't go do that. And I'm like, man, look, I'm doing everything I can to get to everybody. And my number's out there for people to call if they want to have a conversation with me. And I just really, at the end of the day, it's been an amazing process. This has really been, I tell people, running for office is kind of like Mardi Gras. You got to try it at least once, right?
Yeah. And it just depends. You might get on that float and be like, you know what? I don't want to be on this damn float anymore. Depending on who's on that float, right, bro. But like I said earlier, I mean, we had over the last couple of years, we had new council people come on. We've now we got an opportunity to put a new parish president in there. I honestly think I'm gonna just say it right now. I'm looking for change. I'm tired of the old boy system. I'm gonna throw my support to you, full support to you.
Oh, man.
I really appreciate, over the last couple of years we've been working together. I know nobody's perfect. Everybody has skeletons in their closet. Everybody does stuff like that. I'm no perfect than anybody else, but I've seen you, work on different projects over the last couple of years. I do believe that you're doing this for the people, no selfish reasons. You got my full support.
And I really appreciate that.
Not a problem. And not that not that the other competition, I have no beef or ill will to him. He's been on the parish council for a couple of years now. Done some good things and everything. I wish him the best of luck in everything he does. I just think we just need like I said at the beginning, we need to shake the jar up a little bit and get some newer people in there, a little fresh perspective on things. And you know what? If you fall on your face, you fall on your face. Who cares? But I think that's what we need right now. We just need a little change, a little shake up, and a little a little something different, a little something from down the bayou. Down the bayou in there.
Down
the
bayou's coming up the bayou.
Down the bayou's coming up the bayou, yeah. And I think it's a good thing.
I really appreciate that, man.
Yeah, and then like I said, I'm friends with everybody. This is not like, oh yeah, us versus them, all of this stuff. I don't like all of that stuff. I just know when I see change and I see a good thing, I'm going to put my hat and I'm going to tip it to it. So congratulations on your endeavors and everything. Good luck with everything. If you make it in there, hopefully we can continue to work together to make the parish, continue, like you say, move it forward. If the other one gets in there, I'm still going to offer my help to him too. So, that's just the way I am. And, but I hope everybody votes for change this time and votes for you.
They need to go vote.
Yeah.
We have a low turnout. So it's important people go vote.
34% on this last round.
34%. And we're expecting less than 15 this time.
Yeah. And I mean, it all depends who gets out and vote. Right. I mean, I'm looking at it really matters to go vote because I mean, you may get in there with 2 votes. You know what I'm saying? It just depends on who's going to go out and vote. You know what I'm saying?
We've had elections decided by 5 votes in this area. Historically, 5 votes, 11 votes. Every vote does count. And,
it does.
And I say, if you want change, you got to go vote for it.
Yeah, yeah. But no, I appreciate you stopping by. And
I appreciate it too, man.
And if you need anything, let me know. And good, like I said, good luck. And fully support you, man. I'm looking forward to working with you.
Thank you, man. I
really All right. Well, hopefully you get in there.
And I'm working hard, put it in the Lord's hands, and got to go vote.
Right. Exactly. Just go vote. All right. Well, I'll let you get off and do your campaign and stuff, man. Good luck with everything. Thank you, and thank you all for joining us on the DJ Rhett podcast. Go vote Jason. All right.